Hello to my language and literature group, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Here we go with chapters 7 and 8. Have you got your book with you? You're going to need your book. Okay, hopefully you did your homework last time, which was to look at how the distance between Edmund and the other children had been growing in chapter 3. Okay, what I'd like you to do is have a look at a short film clip, and you'll find the link for this underneath the video in YouTube. All right, so just click on the link in the notes below the video, and this will take you to about a 3-minute video. And I'd like you just to watch the clip and have a think, how does the filmmaker show that Edmund is separate from the other children in this clip? He has a few different ways in which he makes Edmund seem somehow distant, somehow different from the other children. See if you can spot those ways. Did you spot them? You should have been able to see that the filmmaker makes Edmund stand a little bit behind the other children. The other three are always together and he's always standing behind. He's got a different expression on his face. Did you notice his coat as well? Did you notice his coat was somehow more fancy than the others? And it was also a different colour. All of the other coats were a brown, black-based colour, whereas his had that sort of fancy grey and black there. The filmmaker is trying to show at this point that Edmund's a bit different from the other children. So the question we need to ask ourselves is why? I think you already know the answer to this one, don't you? That's because Edmund has already made the choice in his head to follow the White Witch and her ideas from his experience last time, where he met her and sat in her carriage and gorged himself on Turkish delight. That means he ate a lot of it. Okay? And so the filmmaker is trying to show us that he's already separate from the other children, and he in fact is going to follow the route of evil in this story. And that introduces one of the major themes in the Chronicles of Narnia series, and in this book in particular, which is the fight between good and evil, one of the key themes. And that's what we're going to have a look at today in the first part of the lesson. What I'd like you to do is, in your notebooks please, you can write a title, Good versus Evil. You can see it on the slide here. And just a very, very simple chart. Left-hand column, good, right-hand column, evil. And we've met a number of different characters so far in the story. You can see them listed at the bottom of the slide here. And what I'd like you to do is very simply write them in under the correct heading. Pause the video now and do this. Okay, did you do it? I expect you did that in a flash, didn't you? Was that really easy? I expect it was for a lot of the characters. You can see here in this slide of the chart that Lucy, for example, and Peter, we know that they're good. The Robin, Mr. Tumnus as well. And you probably put Edmund on the evil side, and of course the White Witch and her dwarf. What about the trees? Do you remember the comment in the book that most of the trees were on our side, Mrs. Beaver says, so on the side of good, but some of the trees would betray would betray them to the White Witch. So you should have the trees on both sides of the charts. I hope you also had a little bit of a think about Edmund and also about Aslan even. Edmund, I wonder, is he truly bad? Does he truly belong on the evil side? Has he just made some bad choices? And what about Aslan even? It's clear he's good. But there are some interesting comments about people being actually very afraid when they come before Aslan. So we can't be completely sure about his character either, right? We'll come back to Aslan in just a minute, but for now, look at the question at the bottom of the chart here. Do you think Edmund is really evil? We might be able to say that the White Witch is completely evil. Can we say the same about Edmund? What's your view on this? In your books, write me a short paragraph answer just to answer this question about your own thinking about this character. Okay, hopefully you've had a good think about the character of Edmund. We are introduced in this section of the book now to a new character. We haven't met him yet, but he seems to be a character of some great significance, and his name is Aslan. To remind yourself of this, when he's first spoken about, I'd like you to read again in your books, pages 76 and 77, where you'll hear Mr. and Mrs. Beaver talking about Aslan. Just reread that again in your books now. Pause the video. Aslan, interesting. Let's look at when Aslan is first introduced, the first words used to describe him. It says, "They say Aslan is on the move, perhaps has already landed." This is interesting, isn't it? Landed. Look at the slide that's coming up on your screen now, and the first question. What's the effect of using this word landed? We usually use landed to talk about maybe a plane coming into land, don't we? Could it be used for an animal like a lion? We're told that Aslan is a lion. What's the impact, do you think, of using this word landed? Why has the author chose to introduce Aslan in this way? What do you think it means? Copy the question into your books. The title can be Aslan, just as you can see on the slide here, and write me a short answer to this. Look at the next question. Aslan has a different effect on each one of the children. Sometimes the effect is positive, and sometimes the effect is negative. This is described in your books on page 77. And I'd like you to describe the effect of the name Aslan on each of the children. How do they feel when they hear his name? Thirdly, why is Edmund's reaction so different from the others? Okay, why is Edmund's reaction to the name of Aslan different? And finally, you of course were introduced to Aslan in this chapter as well. And what reaction did you have when you read about Aslan for the first time, when you saw his effect on all of the children and the way that Mr. and Mrs. Beaver described him? What did that make you think about? And what do you think about this new character of Aslan? Write your answer in your books. Okay, so we've thought about Edmund and we've thought about Aslan this lesson. Let's finish by a quick overview of chapter 8. Now, chapter 8 is a chapter that is mostly concerned with plot. Okay, we've talked about plot, so this is how the story moves forward. So the story moves forward significantly in this chapter, and that's what we're going to have a look at here. You can see on the slide that I've given this the title, Prophecy of the Future. Okay, prophecy is when somebody says one thing that they believe will come true at a point in the future. And there's been some old prophecies said in Narnia that people are hoping will come true. I'd like you to research these for the first question, and I've given you the page references on the slide here. So what do the old rhymes and prophecies say about? The first one, what will happen when Aslan comes? You'll find that on page 88 in your books. And secondly, what will happen when humans, in the book, humans are called Adam's flesh and bone in the rhyme, when humans become kings and queens at Cair Paravel. And you can find that on page 90. Secondly, I'd like you to think again about Aslan. An interesting statement is made in this chapter from Mr. Beaver when he says that Aslan isn't safe, but good. So he is good, but he's not safe. And normally we put these two things together. I'd like you to just write me a short answer about what you think that might mean. Look up the words again in the book if you're not sure. And finally, the plot deepens at the end of the chapter where we see Edmund. He disappears and he has betrayed the others. And what I'd like you to do is just write a short answer to that question. How does Edmund betray the others at the end of this chapter? Okay, well done everybody. So homework will be to read the next 2 chapters, please. That will be chapters 9 and chapter 10 for next lesson. Don't forget to send me your work, please. Just take a picture of it and send it to the usual place. Well done, and see you next time.